Memento has one of the more infamous twist endings in film history, and I think there's a bit of a misconception about what it's trying to say. What do I mean? Leonard has been tracking down a man by the name of John G throughout the film. John is one of two people who broke into Leonard's home, defiled and killed his wife, and gave Leonard a traumatic brain injury that makes him forget anything past the break-in. Give it enough time and Leonard will forget anything in his short-term memory. To keep a complicated story short, a cop helping Leonard out by the name of Teddy sets up a scenario where Leonard can get his revenge on John G. Leonard surprises, subdues, humiliates, and kills John, but John blurts out something that immediately tells Leonard that he can't be John G. Teddy arrives and Leonard gets him to start explaining what is going on. Teddy tells him the truth, that his wife survived the assault and that she might have died much later on for, well, to keep things simple, reasons unrelated to John G, and that Leonard inferred that she must have died to John G because that's the last working memory he did have. Regardless, Teddy was sympathetic to Leonard's need for justice against the man who, as he so bluntly puts it,
the guy that cracked your skull and your wife? We found him, you killed him.
But because of Leonard's memory problems, he never remembered avenging his wife. So, as a dirty cop looking out for his own interests, Teddy was happy to steer Leonard in certain directions for his own benefit.
What was he bringing the 200 grand for? Is this a drug deal?
No. Yeah, that and your thing. Look, Leonard, Jimmy's your guy. I just figured we'd make a few dollars on the side.
Teddy explains that the reason Leonard never remembers killing John G is because he wants to live a romantic fantasy where he is constantly trying to avenge his wife, since that is what makes him the happiest in life and gives him a purpose to live for.
A dead wife to pine for. A sense of purpose to your life. A romantic quest that you wouldn't end even if I wasn't in the picture.
Leonard then walks out of the building and begins setting things up to make himself believe that Teddy is the John G that killed his wife, effectively marking Teddy to die. The most commonly accepted explanation for why Leonard does this is that he wants to keep living his fantasy like Teddy explained, because he thinks his personal happiness or purpose for living is more important than the truth. At times, Lenny comes to the realization that what he believes is fabricated, but he willingly chooses to live in a comfortable life of lies rather than confronting himself with the inconvenient truth. He does lie to himself to be happy.
Do I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy. Yes, I will.
So that he can still have a purpose to his life. There's just something about this explanation of Leonard's actions that doesn't make sense. Why set up Teddy to be the next John G? He's a willing accomplice to keep the fantasy going by steering Leonard to find more John Gs.
Cheer up. There's plenty of John G's for us to find.
So wouldn't you want to keep him alive if your goal is to always have a John G to chase? And why does Leonard say he's making an exception to lie to himself in Teddy's case?
Do I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy. Yes, I will.
Something doesn't add up here. So let's dive a little deeper into Leonard's thought process and figure out what he's really telling us.
I'm not a killer. I'm just someone who wanted to make things right.
Leonard's first thought is stating his fundamental belief in himself, that he's a good person. He doesn't kill people for no reason, only those that deserve justice.
Can I just let myself forget what you've told me? Can I just let myself forget what you've made me do?
Notice the small crack of emotion at the end of that last line?
Can I just let myself forget what you've made me do?
He is not talking about letting himself forget a truth about his character, or weighing whether he should let it go to keep his revenge fantasy going. From Leonard's perspective, Teddy just admitted to using him to kill at least one person who didn't assault his wife.
I'm the one that has to live with what you've done. I'm the one that put it all together.
Leonard is disgusted by the implication that he's been going around killing a bunch of people who aren't John G. Leonard's questioning if he can make himself forget that injustice. Because killing John G matters. Killing people who are not John G matters.
Come on, you got your revenge. Enjoy it while you still remember. What difference does it make whether he was your guy or not?
It makes all the difference.
It matters because even if he can't rely on his interpretation of reality to be accurate, Leonard believes that there is an objective world out there that will be affected by the actions he takes, beyond whatever fantasy he wishes reality to be.
I have to believe in a world outside my own mind. I have to believe that my actions still have meaning, even if I can't remember them.
But why does Leonard, quote, have to believe this? Consider why the camera focuses on the Remember Sammy Jenkins tattoo as he says,
I have to believe that my actions still have meaning, even if I can't remember them.
In the story he remembers, Sammy was a man who got into an accident that cursed him with the same condition that would eventually control Leonard. At the time, Leonard was an insurance claims investigator with the job of determining if Sammy was faking his condition, or at the very least determining if it was covered by his insurance. His ultimate determination was that the particular kind of memory problem Sammy had, regardless of it being real or fake, wasn't covered by the insurance company, and that was the end of his involvement in the matter. Sammy's wife, however, was never able to reconcile that Sammy couldn't make new memories. She convinced herself that there was some trick that could cure Sammy.
I did something wrong.
You did something wrong. Now we're gonna deal with it. We'll figure out. We're gonna try a little harder.
And she looks into his eyes and sees the same person, and if it's not a physical problem, he should just
Go anywhere, Sam.
snap out of it.
Because accepting he was a fundamentally different person now was too painful for her to come to terms with. So she went to Leonard, begging him for an answer to give her closure.
I want you to forget the company you work for 30 seconds and tell me if you really believe that Sammy's faking his condition. I need to know what you honestly believe.
I believe that Sammy should be physically capable of making new memories.
Thank you.
This gave the wife the hope she needed to fix Sammy, and so she tried more extreme ways to get him to remember things, to the point of testing if he'd remembered having given her regularly scheduled insulin shot. Sammy didn't remember, and desperately holding on to what Leonard had told her, the wife held out hope that Sammy would snap out of it, until he gave her so many shots she went into a coma and never recovered. Leonard gave the wife an answer he thought would make her happy. He didn't lie to her, but it gave her enough room to interpret reality the way she wished it to be. She was looking for an answer, and he gave her the one she wanted.
I thought I'd helped her. I thought she just needed some kind of answer. Didn't think it was important what the answer was. Just that she had one to believe.
This is the true reason for remembering Sammy Jenkins. It's why Leonard rejects the revenge fantasy assessment of his character from Teddy. Leonard knows what happens when we believe the answers we want to hear, and that our words and actions mean something to the world. This isn't about a puzzle to solve. This isn't about always having a John G to chase. This isn't about lying to himself to be happy.
Who took out the 12 pages?
You, probably.
No, it wasn't me. See, it was you.
Why would I do that?
To create a puzzle you could never solve?
You think I just want another puzzle to solve?
Cheer up. There's plenty of John G's for us to find.
Another John G to look for?
So you lie to yourself to be happy. There's nothing wrong with that. We all do it.
Do I lie to myself to be happy?
This is about justice for his wife. Once he finds John G, Leonard will stop himself. If he hasn't stopped, it's because someone is keeping the lie going for their own ends. Teddy has manipulated him into killing people who are not John G, so now Leonard feels a responsibility to take him down. So why doesn't Leonard just kill Teddy where he stands? Why play along with the John G revenge fantasy myth and all the hassle that comes with it? In truth, it's Leonard's hubris that his assessment of himself is correct. To him, it makes no material difference if Teddy dies now or a little bit later. He knows he will stop after Teddy, because there will be no one left to make him believe that there's another John G out there. And what better justice could Teddy get after manipulating Leonard into killing a bunch of people who weren't John G?
You're John G. So you can be my John G. Do I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy. Yes, I will.
That was everything from Leonard's perspective. But there's still the question, is he right? Will he really stop once the perceived manipulator is gone? Or is he endlessly stuck chasing the phantom of his wife's injustice? Typically a film will pose this sort of question and wait till the end of the film to answer it, but with Memento, it ends on a question that is actually answered in its very first scene. We watch the aftermath of Leonard having killed Teddy. Leonard throws away the gun, pulls out his camera, takes a picture of Teddy's body, and starts shaking the Polaroid to get the picture to develop. That on its own doesn't tell us much, but the way this information is delivered tells us everything. There's a reason this is the only scene in the film that's played in reverse, and it wasn't merely a fun introduction to the film's unusual chronology. We watch the picture in the Polaroid of Teddy's dead body, the evidence Leonard needs, slowly fade and disappear. We watch the taking of the picture be undone. The gun comes back to the hand of Leonard. The blood from Teddy starts going back into his body, and we end on the moment right before Teddy is killed, where he is still alive. The death of John G is undone. The man who raped and killed Leonard's wife is still out there for him to find. The film says that Teddy was right. The cycle will continue. Even with Teddy out of... well, let him tell you.
You're living a dream, kid. A dead wife to pine for. A sense of purpose to your life. A romantic quest that you wouldn't end even if I wasn't in the picture.
In a world without his wife, the John G story gives Leonard's life meaning, which to some extent he acknowledges.
Sammy wrote himself endless amounts of notes. But he got mixed up. Sammy had no drive, no reason to make it work. Me? Yeah. I got a reason.
You're living.
Only for revenge.
But as he explains in his final lines of the film, he thinks his principles supersede his desire for meaning, which is why he gambles on it with regard to Teddy. What he doesn't realize is how important having that purpose is to him. Even in the face of evidence that his quest is complete, he will wind up interpreting it in a way to suggest it isn't over. Like how he did with the police files of the original break-in that would have at least suggested his wife survived the assault.
Like your police file. It was complete when I gave it to you. Who took out the 12 pages?
You, probably.
No, it wasn't me. See, it was you.
Like how he conveniently heard the fake John G say something in his dying breath that implied he wasn't John G.
He said Sammy. How does he know about Sammy? Oh, fuck.
Like how he logicked himself into having a reason to make Teddy the last John G when he could have just shot him right then and there and been done with the whole fiasco. Ultimately, what I think this shows us is how powerful our need of working towards a purpose can be in guiding our rationality, our code of ethics, and our perception of ourselves as morally good. The warning the film delivers us is of someone who doesn't understand this notion, not of a man who chooses to live in a comfortable lie in the face of the truth, but of a man who fundamentally misunderstands what his core drives are and how they bias his interpretation of the world around him. As such, he is doomed to his eternal purgatory, unknowingly guided by his subconscious into believing a false reality, living the life of a righteous man, seeking justice against the wicked. Always perceiving an illusory reflection of the man he is through the mirrors his mind wants him to see.
We all need mirrors to remind ourselves who we are. I'm no different.
You might even call these mirrors mementos.